Hi, and welcome to the first ever episode of Teenish, a podcast by teens for teens. Today, we'll be talking about the growing epidemic of bullying and cyberbullying. And before we continue, I would like to have a huge shout out to the class announcements. Michael, your sister is actually the, writer of this not podcast, but what is it, a blog, website?
It's like a blog.
And her website talks about education, child development, and family issues. And she wanted to use her degree that she got in early development, to give back to the community through her website and the blogs that she posts. So stay tuned to our first ever episode of Teenish.
Welcome to Teenish, a podcast by teens for teens. Teenish.
Welcome to Teenish. So today we're going to be talking about bullying and cyberbullying. And so first, to give a little definition of what bullying is, and we'll talk about cyberbullying a little later. So bullying is, of course, unwanted, aggressive behavior amongst anybody. And a great place that this really happens at is school, because we're faced with a lot of different people coming from a lot of different backgrounds, perspectives, race, religions, political standpoints. So it's a breeding ground for a lot of people to bully and a lot of bullies. So Michael, have you ever been bullied before?
I've never been cyberbullied, but I have been bullied in a
school.
In school,
yeah.
Yes. I have not been bullied since grade school because I'm a bigger person, and people don't pick on big people.
Okay.
But yeah, I did get picked on in grade school a little bit, not too much. You?
Yes, and actually I'll, go ahead and talk about it. So in middle school, Michael and I went to the same middle school. And so a lot of what I'm about to say, some of the stuff that he has seen, and then some stuff that I've really never talked about on a public platform at all. But in middle school, around 7th grade, 6th grade, I began to get bullied due to the color of my skin. And that not only did it affect me as if I didn't know what to do, because I didn't know I'm not going to just come in a different day and, change how I look. But it also just became to, control my mind and continue to ask my mom, why do I look the way that I look? And as I continued in middle school, I began to understand that this is me, this is how God created me, and this is how he wanted me to be. And later on, looking back now, just from me forgiving the people that bullied me has allowed me to move on with my life. And I've gotten the questions before when I've talked about the bullying that I have faced, why did I, forgive, or even why did I become friends with people that bullied me? And some of the friends that I have now bullied me in middle school and high school. Right now, I have people that, that bullied me. And I know Michael has a stat for us.
Speaking about bullying in middle school and high school, 28% of U.S. students in grades 6 through 12 have experienced bullying. 20 of that 28% is from high school.
And so did you get a year from that?
That was this year. Last year's.
Okay. So from 2018?
2018.
Okay. So yeah, so I was once part of that number, but now looking in retrospect, coming into terms of not only the people that bullied me, but the people that helped me, it has done a lot for me to do that. So I know you have some types of bullying.
I do.
All right.
Okay, so let's start off with verbal bullying. Verbal bullying is said or written statements that can cause harm.
Yeah, so examples of that would be like teasing, name calling, inappropriate sexual comments, taunting, or even like threatening to harm somebody.
We also have social bullying. Social bullying is hurting someone's reputation or relationship.
And so examples of that would be like embarrassing somebody, like in the hallways of school, spreading rumors around, telling other kids like they don't want to be friends with you, just stuff to put people like, well, socially bullying. So socially taunting people. Yeah.
The next one we have is physical bullying, and this is a big one, especially in schools.
Yeah. And we really don't even think about this. So like even if somebody rips somebody's, book bag open and dumps everything out, that will be considered physical bullying. And also hitting, kicking, punching, even like spitting, tripping somebody, all of those are encompassed in physical bullying.
Lastly, we have a really, really big one, especially in today's standards.
Yeah, so cyberbullying is very different from face-to-face bullying. So in face-to-face bullying, we know like who is the bullier and who is being bullied. That is like it is immediately known and the victims know. But in cyberbullying, it can be much far secretive to where the person can remain anonymous or remain unknown. And so some of the different types of cyberbullying that Michael and I were, expressed to when we were researching for this podcast were like very profound to us. We really didn't understand like the really different amounts, different types of cyberbullying. So some of the examples include flaming, which flaming is, using derogatory and aggressive, offensive language to somebody. Harassment is when somebody uses like the technology that we have, so cyberbullying, to discriminate against somebody, for their disabilities, sexual orientation, race, gender, and even religion. And then we also go on to cyber stalking and cyber threats. So cyber threats are clearly meant to evoke fear and imply danger. So cyber threats can be even categorized to when we see people cyber calling and texting school threats and like bombings and stuff like that. That will be actually considered cyber threats. Social exclusion is also used to, like let's think of, what are those called, Michael? The cyber rooms. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So like it's basically an electronic version of social bullying. So it is mean to exclude somebody from like a buddy list, chat room, discussion board, online, or even in game. And so other examples of cyberbullying include masquerading, which is hiding behind somebody else's identity, which can be, so let's say I try to act as a coach from my school. Hey, you're not playing in today's game, stuff like that. And then also outing and trickery is a way of getting people to reveal personal information that may be used against them. And so when we're talking about cyberbullying and bullying, the reasons why people bully may be different for a lot of people. And so some of the reasons that I have seen personally is due to somebody wanting to have, like a leg up on somebody. So somebody has, a huge ego. The bully sometimes may have low self-esteem, like problems at home, jealousy, or even having friends that bully. So they see it as a way to gain friendship with somebody by bullying other people.
Some of the other ones are, just the bully being insecure about themselves or feeling powerless, needing to control their surroundings, or even being rewarded for their bad behavior.
Yeah, and a bully can fall under any different types of circumstances that we may understand or circumstances that we may not understand. And one thing when it comes to bullying is the intervention of bullying. So, Michael, I know that you have some ways that parents, the educators, communicators can, help those that may be affected by bullying or those that may be perceived of being affected by bullying?
Parents play a key role in preventing and responding to bullying. If you know or suspect your child is being bullied or involved in bullying, there are several resources that may help. Recognizing the warning signs that your child is involved in bullying. Many times kids won't ask for help. So it's important to know what to look for.
And yeah, and some signs of bullying may be like unexplained injuries, lost or destroyed clothes, frequent headaches, stomach aches. Like, parents can notice changes within their children. And so it is imperative that as parents, well, I'm not a parent, but that parents, notice the very, very small and minute things. So like even a sudden loss of friends, like, hey, are you going to hang out with Bessie Sue today? No, not today. Yeah, we're really not friends anymore. That can be like a kind of sign. And when we talk about parents, we have to talk about those that are on the front line, so educators as well.
School is a primary place where bullying can happen. So as an educator, help to establish a supportive and safe place for students. You have to learn what bullying is and what bullying is not. Many behaviors to look at for bullying is just take everything serious and learn how to respond to those situations. Establish a safe school climate. Often the first step to prevent bullying is making sure that students, teachers, and administrators alike are educated about bullying.
I'm glad that you brought that up, Michael, talking about, different educators and, teachers, but we can also put school counselors within that, group of people, because some school counselors and, human service workers that may be on schools have set up websites where students can contact them and deal with, bullying, anything that they think that needs to be reported to, higher authorities, to not only give like a peace of mind to those that may be affected by it, but to make it easy, to make it to where I can contact you right now on my phone and report something that I see. And rather than, going through the entire process, of course, every school is different, but it just gives one more aid to those that may be affected by bullying. And when we talk about the educators, we have to also talk about the community, because bullying can take place within churches, within community settings, and like places where you see the same people over and over and over. So I know you have something about that, Michael.
If you're an adult in the community, please take note of this. As an adult in the community, you play an important role to ensure all children are safe from bullying. If you know or suspect bullying is taking place in the community, learn how to respond.
Yeah, and I know that the Federal Civil Rights Law and Youth Act has talked a little bit about making it to where if somebody's rights, so let's say somebody with disabilities, if their right is infringed on, and the school does not do anything about it, that school can be liable for whatever consequences the government has for that school. And when bullying is directly talking about like somebody's disability or becoming a lines for disability harassment, under the Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and Title II of the Disabilities Act, schools must report and address the harassment. So must report the harassment. And I know that you have a little bit about the LGBTQ plus community as well, Michael.
I do. Over 55% of LGBTQ plus students experience cyberbullying.
Yeah. And one way to combat that high number of people being bullied that are in the LGBTQ community is creating a safe environment for those youth. So it is important that we not only protect all youth's privacy, but also build strong connections, and also accept the LGBTQ community, regardless on how they identify themselves, how they reveal themselves, and conceal their sexual identity. And then also creating gay-straight alliances to help create a safer school. So I know at my school, I want to say that we have several, alliances to help people that may be, affected by how closed-minded our society is now today, and especially within school. So I know that we have at least 2 at my school that have been created with the help of students and teachers to create a safe environment. And I also created a group at my school called Real Talk, and we talk about things that we really don't get a chance to talk about within schools. And the LGBTQ community is one thing that we do not really get an opportunity to talk about at all. And so earlier when we were talking about like the community, educators and parents on how they can help, another thing is to get the facts, to keep all the involved children separated, to get the story from both sources, or from all sources that may be encompassed with that, so adults and kids, and listen without blaming. And so I have been a camp counselor for 5 years, youth development with the YMCA for 2 years. And one thing that we want to do and that we're trained to do is to not blame, to listen without blaming, and then to also ask open-ended questions. So rather than asking, so did you throw a piece of paper at this person? No. That's the answer. So it doesn't give room to the child or the affected parties an atmosphere to continue on. But if you say, so what happened? Very simple. What happened? And don't call the act bullying while you're trying to understand what happened. All right? Because we're working, the way we're taught at the YMCA is that we want an unbiased perspective of what has been happening or what has happened. And then also things to keep in mind to determine if it is bullying is what is the history behind the people that are involved with this? Is there any sort of power imbalance? Do these kids have like a relationship outside of this context? So are they friends outside of schools? Are they dating? That can be also something else to keep in mind. Are these kids involved with different gangs, gang interventions, things like that? Has this happened before? Has this person like said anything about it? Any minute things that you may think that are minute may actually aid in eradicating bullying as a whole.
So today we talked about bullying and different types of bullying, cyberbullying, all of those. Keep this in mind. I'm going to emphasize this very importantly. If you see something, say something. It's important.
Yeah, and one source that really helped us, not only the class announcements, you can find that on Facebook, but also Stopbullyinggov. They have somewhere on their website where you can become an upstander, not a bystander, an upstander. And that is to prevent a prevention tactic to teach kids on how to identify bullying and how to stand up to it safely. So one thing is that we see about bystanders is, okay, so it's a whole group of us. Maybe somebody else will stop the bullying from happening, or somebody else will do something. Rather, we're all upstanders, although we are bystanders if we are not trying to aid and help those that may be affected by this. And so I really think that this episode, our first episode, has really, sparked not only something with me, but I know with Michael as well, because I have been affected by bullying before, and finding like the very small things that may cause somebody to bully or that may affect somebody that has been bullied is very important to define. So we thank you all for listening to our first ever episode of Teenish by Teens for Teens.
Teenish, a podcast by teens for teens. Teenish.